Hello and welcome to the 2015-2016 year at Southwest High School. My name is Mr. Urby and I'm going to be doing a YouTube video for my physics class every week. And this week, the first week, I wanted to go ahead and welcome you guys to my class, and I'm really excited that you're with me this year. I'm going to do my best to provide you with as much information and as much, support as I can as you're trying to learn physics. As part of that, I wanted to spend this first week's YouTube video explaining some of the things that are going to become very important to you in the coming weeks. And the first thing is this website. The website that I've created for you is really important because it has a lot of information that's going to help you in our class. And one of those things is going to be when you get to the website, it has my schedule, my class schedule. So you can see on the main page of our website that there's contact information for me, along with my schedule for the rest of the day. So if you need to get in contact with me or find me somewhere here at school, that's how you would do it. Your parents can use the information here to leave me a voicemail or email me if they need to. There's a little welcome here. The other important things, not going to go through every section here on the side, but this website is viewable to everyone in the public, but for you guys, you'll be able to do some things that they cannot. You'll be able to see your grades, for example. You'll be able to take part in discussions in class, and to do all that good stuff that I need you to do, to be able to see your grades, get discussions, download files, which are going to contain like our homework assignments, stuff like that. You're going to have to make sure that when you come to class, I'm going to give you a URL to enroll in class. And when I say a URL, what I mean is up here at the top, you guys probably know this, you need to put in a URL or the link to the website I give you. It's not this specific link that you're looking at here, it's going to be a different one. And the link that I give you is going to allow you to enroll into my website as a student. So as a student in my class, you'll be able to download an assignment that we may have. Let's say that you lost the paper in class, or you're just making the choice to do your work digitally because you want to save paper. Um, whatever the case may be, you'll be able to have access to some things that others cannot. So it's going to be important that you get that taken care of, hopefully by this Friday, the August 28th. And that way you can get rolling with all the other activities I want to put on here for you to have access to. Okay, so again, like I was saying, there's going to be an assignment section that you can look at, and it's going to have notes. I'm also going to put on here a YouTube video, this one that I'm doing right now. So it'll have notes and links to YouTube videos about content that we're covering. It'll have every assignment that we've done in class for the week that has come up. So this first week that y'all are going to be here for, it has all of our assignments for this week. In case you lose a handout in class or you want to go back and look at what we did on which day, you'll see that the assignments are on here by day. And then it also has the due date. Okay, so it tells you when it's due. It keeps track of your grades. As I grade these, I can give it back to you, your grade. So it's important that you have that account for that reason as well. You can even go to the calendar, and in the calendar section, it will show you, when things are coming up that are due. So there's no excuse for not knowing when something's due. In addition to showing you when it's due, if you click on it, it will actually let you download it. It'll tell you a little description about what it's about. Um, and this is going to be helpful for you, right? Because if you can check your calendar and see when things are due, it'll help you stay on top of getting things turned in on time. Of course, there's a policy for Southwest High School. If something's more than 3 days late, it's a 0. Every day after the first day, you get 10 points off, in my class at least. So you can get, a 90, 80, 70. Make sure, that doesn't seem like a lot of points taken off, but it can definitely add up and start hurting you, especially if you're doing your work right. You want to get an A, but instead you're going to get a 70 because it's 3 days late. So make sure you take advantage of that stuff, um, and keep up with it. That way you don't get behind, okay? In addition to the calendar, you can see that I also have my syllabus up here. So you can click on this, and it's going to be the same syllabus you got on the first day of class, but you can click on it in case you lose it. It has all of our important procedures and policies for class. So you can go ahead and go here to get that information. It's a PDF file, so you can even view it from your phone. Um, or your smartphone, anything like that. It has upcoming important dates of things that are due, so you can see exactly what the assignment is if you need to and click on it, and it'll tell you, what we're doing on that day and what's due. So really important website. It's going to be really helpful for you. Has a lot of important stuff on it, and I only hope to add more because I think that as a resource, this is the place where you guys are used to coming. You're used to coming to the internet, going to Google and getting whatever information you need. And this is going to be hopefully just a part of that for my class. So you'll be able to come here to do that. If you have any questions about the website, obviously, talk to me in class and we can sort that out. The other thing that I wanted to talk about here at the start is going to be this win form. Now, every week we're going to have one of these win forms, and I'm calling it a win form because um, that win stands for work, internalize, and nurture. The work, I feel like these three parts are very important in helping someone retain information, right? You need to do work on something, you need to practice it and practice it and practice it. And then the internalize is where you go back and you reflect on what you did. You reflect on how you did the work and was that the best way to do it. It's kind of a metacognitive procedure, right? You're going back and looking at what you did, how you did it, and did it work for you? That's the important thing. Did it work? And if it didn't work, what kind of things do you need to do different, or what kind of things do I as a teacher need to do different to help you? And then the nurture part is where you teach it to somebody. So nurturing that information you learned and teaching it to someone can really help and go a long way in helping you retain that information. Okay, so the work part of this form that you're going to get every Monday, and it's going to do every Friday of every week throughout this year. And some weeks, because we're not doing anything, this form may be very small. You may have a small amount of work. Maybe because we covered a lot of vocabulary words, I don't have a vocabulary section, or maybe we don't do a lot of things because there's a lot of testing that week. There's a lot of reasons why this form may be shorter or bigger or smaller. I mean, the same size. It's just going to depend. So I don't want you to look at this week's form and be like, oh my God, he's going to give us so much work every week. That's not necessarily the case. And, I don't want you to look at it so much as this really awful thing you have to do. Look at it as work that's going to help you get better in the class. And so these work assignments, I'm going to go ahead and go through them with you for this first win week so you know what kind of homework you're going to be responsible for this week. And this is going to be how you get homework in the class. Um, so you're going to get it specifically from this section. Okay. So the first section is for the vocabulary words. You can see that the vocabulary words are here in this box, precision all the way through velocity. You have a choice between doing two different activities, either A or B for this week. So choice A deals with making a poster. And the poster is going to be based off the Frayer model, which is a way that we show vocabulary words to help us remember them. The poster must be in color. Black and white pictures are acceptable as examples here in this section, but they need to be highlighted with color. So you need to add color afterwards with colored pencils or markers, stuff like that. But the pictures also need to be clear and easy to see. I don't want any pictures that are just big blotches of ink, right? It needs to be an easy, clear picture to see. Okay, so as an example of what this Frayer model looks like, and again, for option A, you're only doing this for one word, but it is a poster, okay, a poster size poster board you can get from any, HEB or wherever. And so the way that the Frayer model looks like this. You would put the word in the center. In this case, it's the word perimeter. You put a definition for the word. You put examples of the word, and in this case they've chosen enclosed objects that actually have a perimeter that you can measure. Again, a perimeter is going to be the distance around a shape or a closed figure, and in this case they've highlighted the area. So those are examples. This is where you'd put your pictures. Non-examples could also be some pictures, or maybe they're definitions of or equations. In this case, there's no perimeter because the object isn't enclosed. Over here, they're showing that they highlighted the center of the square, so it's the volume, it's not perimeter, and they've given you the equation for volume. The top right is going to be for facts and characteristics. So circumference is a equation that's used to find the perimeter of a circle. And then they have the perimeter equation for a rectangle, and then a triangle over here with all the parts labeled for finding perimeter. So this is going to be a way that we go about identifying. We're going to see this throughout the year. It's not always going to be the case that if we have vocabulary, you have just these two options, right? Sometimes I may have two different options, but for this week, the first option is to create a poster using that Frayer model. The second option, option B, is to complete a set of flashcards for all of the words. Now these flashcards have to have certain things on them. They need to have the word, obviously. They need to have the definition. Um, They also need to have the word used appropriately in a sentence and a picture, a small picture as an example, okay? Now, the difference between these two is that one, obviously you have to create a poster, you have to go through the creative artistic part of picking pictures and coloring them, and then, but that's just for one word, not all of them. And then in B, you're doing all the words, but you're not having to do all this other artistic stuff. You're just putting them on index cards. So it's going to be your choice whether you do A or B. Just make sure that you have it turned in with your project on Friday or with your win form on Friday. That's your first assignment, and that's going to count as a grade. The second assignment that's going home in this win form is a position versus time data graphing assignment. So throughout this week, we're going to be doing a lot of work with position and time. We're going to be looking at where objects are at given time intervals, and we're going to be graphing that. And I'm going to be looking really hard at whether you're able to graph, specifically whether, I'm sure you all are able to graph, but whether you're able to do it consistently, and that by that I mean label all your axes, make appropriate scales so that the graphs are easy to see, creating a title that explains the graph that everyone's looking at. Those are all going to be important parts of creating graphs in this class. In this case, we are creating a position time graph, and I'll show you where you're going to put that in a second. But the position is going to be going on our y-axis, and then time is going to go on our x-axis. So that's going to be really important that you can make note of that as you're going over it. You're going to find that if you use these YouTube videos, it'll go a long way in helping you do these worksheets, because usually I'll give you an example of exactly how I want maybe one of the problems to look, and then from there you can go and it'll help you assist you in completing the work. Okay, so the position values are going to be our y values. Time is going to be our x values. You guys know that whenever we plot a point, that we do it. Sorry about that interruption. I'm recording this video here in class. So we know that when we're plotting points, you have an x value and you have a y value. So we're going to be using these as our x and y values for creating our coordinates for these points. Now, there are only, let's see here, 3 questions, but the 3 questions about your graph, once you've completed it, and I'll show you where you're going to put that in a second, deal with looking at a range of values. So here it says between 10 and 20 seconds, they want you to calculate the slope, and they want you to identify what is happening. So we're going to talk a little bit about how we do that. I'm going to plot this first point for you. It's at 10:20. So let's go ahead and plot that first point at 10:20. There is graph paper that you can use to do this. And again, I did say that I want position on the y-axis. So the position is going to go right here. And then time will go right here on the x-axis. You can choose whatever scale you like. For this right now, I'm just going to, when I say whatever scale you like, what I'm basically saying is that you need to try to pick a scale that's going to go as far out as possible on the time axis and the position axis, so you can get this graph to look nice and big. If you don't scale this appropriately, you might end up with like a really tiny graph that kind of finishes before we need you to finish it. As just to quickly do this though, let's say that each one of these counts for let's go with 5s. Okay, so this is 5 seconds, 10, 15. So I'm going by 5 each tick mark. And then on the y-axis for position, we're going to do the same thing. So 5, 10, and then 15, 20, 25, and going up on like that. Our first point was at 10:20. So we'd go over a time of 10. And then after 10 seconds, we went up to a position of 20. Let's say that after another 10 seconds, I'm not looking at the data table, but let's say that the next point after that was at 20:25, so like a point right here. If we were to connect these from our origin, which is the place where we start, this would be our origin right here, the beginning point at 0, 0, time 0, position 0. We go up to our first point, then from our first point over to our second point. What the questions are asking you in 2, 3, and 4 is for you to identify what's happening and to find the slope. So if we're going to identify what's happening with this object, we could say something like the object, it went from 20 to 25 meters. So it moved a total distance of 5 meters, and it did it over a time period of 10 seconds. Because from 10 to 20, we have this elapsed time of 10 seconds. Okay, so that's how you would identify what's happening with the object. You just say how much distance changed over what amount of time. The other thing that you need to do is to find the slope. Now, an easy way to find slope is rise over run. Now, to calculate rise over run, we're going to be looking at how much did the object change its height, or the rise, divided by how much did it change its horizontal movement, or the run here. So this is horizontal, vertical. So the horizontal distance it changed, or time that it changed, was from 10 to 20. So my run, this right here is the run, the bottom part, would be from 10 to 20, which is a total of 10. And my rise, again, the rise is the vertical component of this triangle going up, would be from 20, I come across here, it's going from 20 to 25, which is a total of 5. So 5 over 10 is equal to 0.5. And it turns out that this actually gives us our velocity for this object, because it's position divided by time, it's the distance divided by time. This would end up being 0.5 meters per second. Again, we're measuring position in meters here, time in seconds. If you look up at the data table, you'll see that. So 0.5 meters per second would be the velocity of this object during this time component. Okay, so the two things for each of those 2, 3, and 4 for the problems above, you just make sure that you identify the change in distance over how much time it took place. That's how you identify what's happening with the object. And then just show me this work right here that shows me that you understand how to calculate slope. And you can just show me from here on over. You don't have to show me the equation for rise over run. Just show me whatever you think the rise was divided by the run, and then what the answer was. Okay? So that's going to be how we go about calculating slope and how we identify what's happening with an object. So that's the second grade that you're going to get for homework this week. So make sure that you finish that as well. The third thing you'll have to do is actually calculate some speed problems, because this is another thing that we're going to do this week. You're going to be calculating speed in class, and it's pretty straightforward. There's just a couple things I need to go about in regards to procedure for answering this stuff. If we look at this first example here, you'll see that they say, what is the speed of a cheetah that travels 112 meters in 4 seconds? Okay, so 112 meters is our distance, 4 seconds is our time, and they're asking you to find the speed. So this is what we're looking for right here, the speed, right? The equation is shown right here, speed equals distance over time. And then our substitution of values and our answer are shown here as 28 meters per second. So they just took the distance, 112, divided by the 4 seconds for the time. So that went in here, and that went in the denominator there, and they plopped out our time. So if we do this on our own, I'm going to show you an example. And that's another good thing about coming to these YouTube videos, is that if you come here, it's very likely that you're going to get, you know, a lot of stuff done for you to see how to do the problem. So in number 2, it says a bicyclist travels 60 kilometers in 3.5 hours. So 60 kilometers is going to be our distance, and 3.5 hours is our time. And they want to know the average speed. So we're looking for speed again. The equation is S equals d over t, speed equals distance over time, which, if we replace these numbers, would be 60 kilometers. Instead of d, we're going to put 60, and we're going to divide that by the 3.5 hours, and that's going to give us a value, right, our answer. And I'm not going to calculate that for you. You can do it for yourself, but you'll end up with an answer here. Make sure you show your units. So in this case, it would be kilometers per hour. I will tell you that. And the key thing here is, I know it's a lot of work to show, but I do want you to show all these steps. So you have to show, this first step where you show the given information. You have to show the second step, which is the actual where you show what you're looking for. You have to show the step where you give the equation. You have to show your work, and then you have to show your answer. Now these 5 steps give you 5 points. So you can get a total of 5 out of 5 on each problem. Let's say that you only choose to show your answer. Well, if you only show your answer, it doesn't help me identify what you're doing wrong in a problem. And that's really the important part of doing problems. If we just do a bunch of problems and you give me your answers, not only could you just be cheating, but more importantly, we're not identifying if you know how to do the problem correctly. So I definitely don't reward as much credit for each problem if you do that. If you show your answer, you're just going to get 1/5 of the total points. If you do this on a whole assignment, then you're going to end up with 20% as your grade. So it's really important that you do the other stuff. And the other stuff isn't even hard. You just got to underline some stuff and you've got to show the equation. That's very basic, straightforward, but it goes a long way in helping me identify. Because what if you had mixed up what the distance and time were? Well, I can identify that very quickly by looking at this first step. Or maybe you just had a calculator problem. Well, that's easy to identify for me if you show all your work, because I can see, oh, they did this step right, they did this step right, they have the right equation, they have the right numbers in the right place, so they must have just done the calculator part of it wrong to get the wrong answer. Okay, so make sure you show all your work in this format that I'm showing you, and it'll go a long way in making sure that we get to where we need to get in class. Okay, so that finishes the work part of this assignment, and that means that there's going to be 3 different little assignments within this homework that you're taking home on Monday. But you do have 5 days to do it, guys. So use your time wisely. We're also going to have some class time to do this. So occasionally, I'll stop class and say, pull out your win form. You can work on that in class, and that'll help you get this done. Okay. The internalized part of this, remember I said, is where you reflect on things. So these questions are going to be about whether you understood what we went over and how well you did understand it. This is a separate grade now. It goes over just a completion grade that you finished it. So give me thoughtful answers about what worked for you, what didn't. And it lets you reflect a little bit about what we learned in class, specifically these assignments, and it'll help me identify whether they did something for you or not. And maybe I change it for next year. Maybe I change what kind of work you get as choices, stuff like that in the future. So make sure you answer these the best you can. And again, that's just to reflect on what we did. The last component isn't going to be filled out by you. It's going to be filled out by somebody you know, either a parent, a friend, a brother or sister. You're going to give this paper to someone in this section, the nurture section. You're going to teach that person the 3 concepts or whatever concepts we went over in the work part of that win form. So in this case, we went over vocabulary words, we went over graphing, and we went over calculations for speed and velocity. So you'll cover those 3 concepts and explain them to somebody. You'll give them this form, and they're going to fill out sections A, B, and C. They're very straightforward. What is your name in relationship to the person? So they'll say, my name's John, and I'm father, and they might write down one new thing they learned or something they already knew. Just it's very simple. They don't have to write a whole lot. And then they just have to write down whether they feel like you're knowledgeable and whether you had mastered the vocabulary words and definitions on your own before you tried to explain them to someone. So those 3 things are going to be very important and how you explain it to somebody. Okay. So that concludes the win form. You can see it is kind of a lengthy form this week, just because we're covering a lot of new stuff here to start school. But I don't want that to discourage you. Like I said, they're not always going to be lengthy. Sometimes they'll be very short. Sometimes they won't have certain sections. For example, next week, the vocabulary section is very small for the next one, and the choices are a little bit different. The type of work you get on it might be different. But it is going to require you to kind of to be responsible, and it's going to require you to use your resources time-wise to make sure you finish it. I'm giving you a whole week from Monday. It's not due till Friday. So if you wanted to get this done in one day and finish it, you don't have anything to worry about the rest of the week. More power to you. But do try to space it out. I think is probably the best way, and manage your time appropriately to finish it. You are going to have one of these each week though, and like I said, going to be given to you on Monday and they'll be due on Friday. If you have any questions about these as well, you can let me know and we'll figure out a solution to whatever problem you may have. But I do hope this video was helpful. Again, the purpose was to make sure that you understood where to go on the website for information, how to get on the website, and then also what this win form was all about, because you'll be seeing it each week. And I'll be having another YouTube video next Monday that will explain the content that we're going over that week, in addition to showing you how to do some of the work on the win form. It might even go over some of this win form to talk about what people did or didn't do correctly. That way y'all can prepare for the test better. Okay, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week.